Imports of frozen fruit products in the country hit a new record in 2023, according to data compiled by the Korea Rural Economic Institute, amid the growing burden on consumers to purchase fresh goods due to lingering inflation.
한국농촌경제연구원이 집계한 자료에 따르면 고물가가 지속되면서 소비자들이 신선식품 구매에 갈수록 부담을 느낌에 따라 냉동과일 수입량이 지난해 사상 최대를 기록했습니다. So instead of going for the fresh fruit, a lot of people have been buying frozen fruit. Tell us more.
It's quite sad. I mean, I'm not a fruit person.
Are you not?
No. I would rather eat chocolates or cookies.
Okay, I thought you were going to say vegetables.
I'm not a vegetable person either.
Okay.
However, nevertheless, having to go for frozen instead of fresh fruit is sad. The country's imports of frozen fruit products came to 64,000 tons in 2023, and this was an increase of 6% compared to a year earlier. And a survey conducted by the Institute in December involving 500 local consumers, 38% responded that they had purchased frozen fruit products because they were easier to preserve and, of course, a little bit more reasonable in price.
Yeah.
And another 22% said that the price competitiveness said that it was easier for them to purchase because, compared to fresh goods.
That's right. 자, 그러니까 이제 작년에 냉동과일 수입량이 6만 4천 톤에 달했군요.
Yes.
64,000 tons. 그런데 왜 이렇게 많이들 냉동과일을 먹었을까 물어보니까 it's easier to preserve.
That's right.
저장하기가 비교적 쉽다 이런 뜻이죠. 그 다음에는 또 가격도 비교적 저렴하다. 이거를 price competitiveness라는 단어 하나로 표현을 했는데요. 이제 경쟁적인 가격이라는 것은 이제 주체가 누구냐에 따라서 가격이 저렴하다가 될 수도 있고 아니면은 내가 어떤 직업에 지원을 하게 됐는데 competitive salary를 준다라고 하면은 많은 봉급을 준다는 뜻이 될 수도 있죠.
That's right.
네. 자, 그래서 비교적 저렴하고 또 저장도 쉽기 때문에 비싼 이제 그런 생과일보다는 냉동 과일로 많이들 구입을 한 것 같습니다.
That's right.
Let's have a look at our first expression, and that is to compile data.
Yes. If you compile something, you are producing, a list or a report and assembling information collected from different sources. So you might compile a list of different sources of imports.
Yeah.
For example, here you are compiling different lists of importers of frozen goods.
자료를 모으다, 자료를 집계한다라는 뜻으로 compile data라고 할 수 있고요. 여기서는 according to data compiled by the KREI라고 했습니다. 그 다음에는 lingering inflation.
Yes. So if a person or a thing lingers in a certain place or in a certain condition, you're staying in that place longer than necessary.
Yeah.
Because that person or a thing is reluctant to leave. So in this case, inflation does not want to leave. So inflation is still staying for the longer term.
네. 없어지지 않고 무언가가 계속 그 자리를 지키고 있다든지 생각이나 어떤 것이 향 같은 것도요. 오래 갈 때 linger라고 할 수 있어요. 그래서 여기서는 inflation이 lingering 한다. 고물가 상태가 지금 없어지지 않고 여전히 남아있다라는 의미로 볼 수 있겠습니다.
Yes.
우리가 이제 과거, 추억 얘기할 때요. I went into the coffee shop one day and there was this wonderful scent of just baked bread and croissants and cookies and everything and the scent and the smell just lingered for a while.
Made you hungry.
네, 이렇게 냄새에 대해서 좋은 향에 대해서 말할 수도 있고요.
That's right.
아니면 어떤 생각이 I couldn't stop thinking about this person. The thought lingered in my mind.
That's right.
이렇게 말할 수도 있겠죠. 자, 다시 한번 헤드라인 읽어보겠습니다. Imports of frozen fruit products in the country hit a new record in 2023, according to data compiled by the Korea Rural Economic Institute, amid the growing burden on consumers to purchase fresh goods due to lingering inflation. Now let's move on to the second headline.
Russia has reportedly taken complete control of a city in eastern Ukraine that was the focus of intense combat for months, a development that Moscow could use to boost morale as the second anniversary of its full-scale invasion of Ukraine approaches.
러시아군이 몇 달 동안 격전을 치른 끝에 우크라이나 동부의 아우디유카를 완전히 장악한 것으로 알려졌습니다. 러시아가 우크라이나 침공 2년 시점을 맞아 이를 사기 진작용으로 활용할 가능성도 점쳐졌습니다. 2월 24일이면은 이제 2년이 되는 시점이죠.
Already.
그러게 말입니다.
Yes.
Tell us more.
Yes. So the Russian Defense Ministry's announcement came on the same day that Ukraine's military chief said that he was withdrawing troops from this city of Audiivka. And this is the city where the outnumbered defenders had battled a Russian assault for 4 months. And the Russian defense minister told the Kremlin that Russian forces were working to clear the final pockets of resistance at the Audiivka coke and chemical plant. And along with the invasion's upcoming anniversary, Russia is also preparing for a March presidential election. And so they are kind of preparing for this entire anniversary as well as the celebrations. So that's why people are a bit cautious and preparing for the worst.
And mentioning, the capture of this particular city.
Yes.
Does seem to have a lot of political motives as well, as you just said there. 아우디우카 같은 경우에는 이제 도네츠크주 한복판에 있다고 합니다. 그래서 군사적인 의미보다도 이제 정치적인 의미가 짙다. 이렇게 전문가들은 분석을 하고 있는데요. 마침 독일에서 그 굉장히 큰 안보 회의가 치러지고 있는 시점에 맞춰서 러시아에서는 또 이렇게 얘기를 하고 있습니다. 전쟁을 잘 치르고 있다. 이게 또 새로운 곳을 우리가 점령을 했다. 그러면서 boosting morale을 하고 있거든요. 우리말로는 이제 그대로 번역을 하면 사기 진작. 무슨 뜻이죠?
Yes. So boosting morale is actually bringing everyone together, making people feel more confident about what they're doing. Kind of cheerful as well, so that everyone can gather and be united under the same kind of direction or the same, I guess, cause.
그렇죠. 자, 사기를 높이는 것을 말하고 있습니다. Boosting morale.
Yeah.
그래서 어떤 약간의 축제 분위기로 가려고 하는 것 같고요. 또 마침 또 여러 가지 정치적인 이벤트들도 이제 다가오고 있기 때문에 그런데 또 맞춰서 여러 가지로 러시아 내에서는 boosting morale을 하기 위한 발표들이 나오고 있는 것 같습니다.
That's true.
Well, Russia says it has taken complete control of this particular city in Ukraine. Taking control of something?
Yes, if you take control or something, it's the act of controlling something or someone. And if you have complete control of it, it's like from 0 to 100, all of it. So this is their way of saying we have won. On their second anniversary, as well as the March presidential election. They're saying that now Ukraine is literally ours.
Yeah,
so we have won this war, taking all of the control. This is all ours.
That's what Russia is saying.
Yes.
Taking control of something, 무언가를 장악한다는 뜻이고요. 가운데다가 complete를 넣어서 완전히 장악한다는 의미가 되겠습니다. 다시 한번 헤드라인 읽어볼게요. Russia has reportedly taken complete control of a city in eastern Ukraine that was the focus of intense combat for months, a development that Moscow could use to boost morale as the second anniversary of its full-scale invasion of Ukraine approaches.
The number of the nation's international air passengers increased by more than 50% in January from a year earlier, marking 91% of the figure recorded in January 2019 before the outbreak of COVID-19.
지난 1월 국제선 항공 여객이 전년 동기 대비 50% 이상 증가했습니다. 코로나19 이전인 2019년 1월과 비교하면 회복률은 91%에 달하는 것으로 나타났습니다. 우리나라를 기준으로 물론 얘기하는 것이고요. Tell us more.
Yes. In fact, if you actually go to the airports, it's hard to believe that it's still not 100% compared to pre-COVID levels.
It's very busy, isn't it?
It's very, very busy. But nevertheless, it's still at 91% compared to pre-COVID levels.
Yep.
But according to the data by the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport, as of Sunday, the total number of the nation's international air passengers reached 7.28 million last month. And this was up 57% year on year. And so it is a drastic increase, and we do see a lot of international passengers on the rise. And I also see a lot of foreign travelers, but also business travel on the rise as well.
Yeah, absolutely. 그러니까 지난달 기준이고요. 올해 1월 달 국제선 항공 여객이 총 7.28 million이라고 하셨나요?
Yes,
네,
that's right.
728만 명이 넘어섰는데 이제 57% 증가한 수치입니다. 이게 2023년 1월에 비해서.
That's right.
네. 근데 이제 노선별로도 좀 얘기를 해볼까요?
That's right. So routes to and from China saw the largest growth as the number of travelers on the China routes reached 873,000 in January. This is probably due to the fact that China had the biggest lockdown.
Yeah.
And they also had visa restrictions as well. Those of you who have been to China recently will probably know that you do have to register your fingerprints, and then you have to get your extra visa. Before we did have to get the extra visa, whether it's a single or a double, whether if you wanted to get into China, but that registration of that fingerprint, your is also another requirement.
Yeah.
And the number of air travelers on routes connecting to Japan is also increasing steadily. The number of passengers on those routes came to 2.03 million in January.
네, 중국 노선 이용객이 정말 많이 늘었어요. 절대적인 숫자는 물론 87만 명 정도니까 일본 노선 여행객의 200만 명에 비해서는 적지만 그래도 작년 1월 수치와 비교해 보면은 7배나 늘어난 중국 여행객입니다. 그러니까 중국으로 가거나 오거나 중국 노선 여행객을 다 말하는 거고요. 작년 1월에는 10만 명 정도였는데 이번에는 87만 명이니까 7배 정도가 늘었고 일본 노선의 여객은 올해 1월 달에 200만 명 좀 넘었죠. 203만 명. 작년 1월 달에는 132만 명. 여전히 조금 늘었고 그다음에 여전히 굉장히 많이들 갑니다. 아무래도 그 엔저 현상과 더불어서 계속 쭉 일본 여행은 인기인 것 같습니다. 자, 그러면 표현 좀 볼게요. 첫 번째는 figure라는 표현인데 the figure. 어떤 figure를 말하고 있는 걸까요?
So there are multiple or different definitions to the word figure. Here it's expressed as in numbers, but it's not just numbers, but it's more official numbers that are announced by the government or by statistics. So officially, if you have documents and you report certain numbers behind a tally or a report after you do some kind of survey, then you can say that the figure was 2.03 million.
Yeah, exactly. 수치를 말하고 있습니다. 어떤 숫자에 대해서 figure라고 명사로 쓸 수 있겠고요. 동사일 때는 알아낸다라는 의미로 I figured that you wouldn't be coming, so I just drank your coffee instead. Sorry, 주연. 네가 안 올 거라고 생각해서 내가 그냥 대신 네 커피까지 마셨어. 근데 그럴 때 이제 이렇게 생각했다.
That's
이런
right.
느낌으로 I figured 이렇게 말하기도 하는데 회화에서 많이 쓰는 표현이에요.
The same as I assumed.
그렇죠.
Yeah.
네. 그렇지만 여기서는 그 동사는 아니고요. 명사 형태로 어떤 number, 수치를 말합니다. 자, 그 다음에는 COVID outbreak.
That's right. I think that a lot of us heard a lot of this word outbreak. This means that it's a sudden rise in the incidence of a disease or a virus.
네.
Yes.
한 3년 동안 정말 많이 들었던
Exactly.
단어죠. The outbreak of COVID.
That's
the
right.
COVID outbreak. 이렇게 해서 뭔가가 이렇게 확산되면서 발생한다는 뜻이 있어요. 그래서 이제 the outbreak of COVID를 코로나의 확산이라고 할 수도 있겠고 뭐 코로나의 발발이라고도 볼 수 있겠습니다. 자, 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. The number of the nation's international air passengers increased by more than 50% in January from a year earlier, marking 91% of the figure recorded in January 2019, before the outbreak of COVID-19. 자, 다음 헤드라인 가보겠습니다.
A new report has revealed that rising demand for ajiao, or donkey hide glue used in Chinese medicine, is devastating donkey populations in Africa.
중국 전통 약재로 쓰이는 당나귀 가죽으로 만든 아교, 일명 어지아오의 수요가 늘어나면서 그 여파로 아프리카의 당나귀 개체수가 급감하고 있다는 최근 보고서가 나왔습니다. 자, 얘기를 좀 들어볼게요. What's happening, 주연?
So this donkey hide glue, in Korean we call it agyo, and in English it's ojao, and it's actually made from donkey hide,
Which is donkey
Yes.
skin.
Yes, exactly, donkey skin, and. In order to make this, about 6 million donkeys are slaughtered every year for their skins. And from their skin, they extract the collagen. And it's used for food or drink supplements and beauty products like face creams.
Right.
And it's used in Chinese medicine. And it's marketed as luxury products.
Yeah, I understand that emperors used
Yes.
to use this back in the day as
That's
well.
right. And it's said to have a high concentration of collagen or very high potency collagen as well. And now China's donkey population has been hit hard by the surge in popularity of these products. And now dealers are focusing on Africa, which has long had the world's highest donkey numbers.
Right.
And now the species is facing a crisis.
네, 중국의 이 전통 약재인 어지아오가요, 당나귀의 가죽과 내장을 고아서 그다음에 굳힌 그런 이제 donkey hide 젤라틴 형태의 그 약재 건강식품으로 많이 쓰인다고 하는데요. 뭐 혈액순환에도 개선에도 도움이 됐고 그다음에 노화를 또 늦춰주는 그런 효과도 있다라고 해서 과거에는 황제들이 썼던 그런 약재라고 합니다. 그런데 문제는요. 이제 아프리카 대륙에 당나귀 전 세계 당나귀의 한 3분의 2가 있을 정도로 당나귀가 정말 아프리카에 특히 많은데 거기에서 밀수되거나 돈 안 되는 그런 당나귀들이 요즘에 많이 늘고 있어서 고생을 하고 있는 모습입니다. 자, 첫 번째 표현 볼게요. There's a rising demand for donkeys.
Yes. Demand is actually the fact that a lot of people want it.
Yeah.
And so there's more consumers that actually want this product. Rising means that more and more people are wanting it. So
Yeah.
there is an increase in the demand for ajiao.
그렇죠. 수요가 바로 demand가 되겠습니다. 공급은 supply인데요. 여기에는 지금 이 단어는 나와 있지 않지만 a rising demand for something. 늘어난 무언가의 수요. Well, this is devastating donkey
Yes.
populations.
That's right. If you say that something is devastating, you can say that emotionally something is causing a lot of destruction, it's damaging, it's causing a lot of distress or grief emotionally. But it can also be used that it's devastating the population of donkeys because it's actually doing a lot of destruction or damage to the actual donkey population. It's causing distress to the donkey population.
네, 이게 좌절의 의미도 있지만 또 파괴의 의미도 있을 수가 있기 때문에요. 파괴하고 있다. 당나귀의 개체수를 좀 더 자연스럽게 해석을 하자면은 지금 이런 늘어난 어지아오에 대한 수요가 당나귀 개체수를 줄게 하고 있다. 이렇게 볼 수 있겠죠. 다시 한번 읽어보겠습니다. A new report has revealed that rising demand for ejiao, or donkey hide glue, used in Chinese medicine, is devastating donkey populations in Africa. And let's move on to the final headline.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump has launched his own sneaker brand a day after a New York judge ordered him to pay over $350 million in penalties for fraudulently overstating his net worth to dupe lenders.
도널드 트럼프 전 미국 대통령이 자신의 운동화 브랜드를 출시했습니다. 자신이 보유한 순자산 가치를 허위로 부풀려 대출기관을 속이려 한 혐의로 3억 5천만 달러 이상의 벌금을 내라는 법원의 판결을 받은 지 하루 만의 일입니다. Tell us about the sneakers then.
Yes, well, he never ceases to amaze us. So these shoes are shiny gold high tops. So high tops are sneakers that have slightly higher ankles.
Yep.
And it has an American flag detail on the back. And they're sold as never surrender high tops. And they're actually sold for $399.
Right.
So not cheap, actually.
네, 지금 이제 출시된 운동화 이름이 Never Surrender, 절대 포기하지 마라, 하이톱스입니다. 운동화 종류가 이제 높게 올라가는 하이톱 운동화거든요. 그래서 Never Surrender 하이톱이 $399에 팔리니까 우리 돈으로는 한 53만 원 정도가 되겠습니다. 근데 홈페이지 들어가 보면은 이 운동화뿐만 아니라
That's right.
이제 트럼프 향수도 있다면서요.
That's right. Cologne and perfume for $99 a bottle. And it's actually, the cologne is Victory 47.
Why 47?
Because he would be the 47th president if he is elected again.
그렇습니다.
Yes.
향수의 이름은 빅토리 47인데요. $99고요. 올해 말에 대선에서 만약에 트럼프 전 대통령이 승리한다고 하면은 그러면 이제 47대 미국 대통령이 되는 겁니다. 그래서 47이 여기 들어갔다고 해요. 이렇게 향수와 운동화 이렇게 출시한 것이 사실 대선과는 아무 상관이 없긴 하죠.
That's right. So the website says that it has no connection to Trump's campaign.
Right.
Though Trump campaign officials promoted the appearance on online posts. So, here's to arguing.
엄밀히 따지면은 대선 캠페인과는 무관하지만 그 트럼프의 오피셜 홈페이지에 올라와 있고 지금 사실은 이제 대선을 향해서 가고 있는
Yes.
주요 인물이기 때문에 그 유권자들은 또 어떻게 받아들일진 모르겠어요.
Yes.
근데 최근에 뭐 벌금을 물는 일이 있었어요.
That's
무슨
right.
일이죠? 어떻게 된 거예요?
Because he was actually slapped with a huge penalty, 355 million in penalties, because the judge in New York ordered Trump and his company to pay these fines, finding that the former president lied about his wealth for years because he was scheming to dupe banks, insurers, and other investors by inflating how much he was worth, his wealth on financial statements to be more attractive to investors.
그러니까 마침 하루 전에 뉴욕의 어터니 제너럴이 어떤 판결을 내렸느냐면 지난 10년간 트럼프가에서 자산의 가치를 부풀려서 대출을 받을 때 유리하도록 했다. 너무 많이 그동안에 부풀렸었고 그것이 허위로 부풀린 것이기 때문에 그것에 대한 벌금을 또 물게 된 거죠. 근데 그런 지 하루 만에 운동화 이렇게
Yes.
나와서 어쨌든 뭐 이목을 끌고 있습니다.
That's true.
자, 한번 그럼 다시 표현을 먼저 보고요. fraudulently doing something이라는 표현 볼까요?
Yes, if you are doing something fraudulently, it involves a way that is involving deception. So you're cheating and you're lying about something. Especially, it involves criminal acts. That's why he was slapped with a major fine in the state of New York.
네. fraud, F-R-A-U-D가 부정행위 내지는 사기라는 뜻이 있어서 fraudulently는 부정하게 사기적으로 뭔가 이제 속여서 했다는 의미고요. 그 다음에 이제 누구를 속이려고 했느냐. He and his family, they tried to dupe lenders.
Yes, so
dupe가 뭘까요?
it's also kind of a way of tricking someone. Exactly.
맞아요. 누군가를 속인다는 뜻입니다. 그래서 fool이라는 동사로 바꿀 수도 있는데 D-U-P-E, dupe. 이제 lenders는 여기서 bankers를 말하고 있습니다. 대출해주는 은행에 속이려고 한 그런 혐의를 받고 그러니까 많게는 $3.6 billion. Are you okay there, 주연?
Yes, I'm good.
네. 그래서 지금 이런 벌금을 일단 물어야 되는 상황이 됐다. 이런 것도 같이 살펴봤고요. 제가 빠르게 다시 한번 읽어보겠습니다. Former US President Donald Trump has launched his own sneaker brand a day after a New York judge ordered him to pay over $350 million in penalties for fraudulently overstating his net worth to dupe lenders.
The National Weather Agency's annual earthquake report shows that 106 earthquakes with a magnitude of 2 or stronger struck the Korean peninsula and its surrounding seas last year, which is about 50% more than in previous years.
기상청이 발간한 2023 지진연보에 따르면 지난해 한반도 및 주변 해역에서 규모 2.0 이상의 지진이 총 106회 발생한 것으로 나타났습니다. 이는 전해까지의 연평균 발생 횟수보다 약 50% 많은 수치입니다. Tell us more, Paul.
Well, the annual average, which has been recorded since 1999, is 70.8. So it's a little bit of a big increase.
Yeah.
And they're attributing it to a series of quakes that were reported in the East Sea. We had them from April to October last year. There were also earthquakes in the North Korean county of Gyeongju. That's where the nuclear testing site for North Korea is. Okay. So it's the fourth highest yearly record. The highest was 252 in 2016. We had 223 in 2017 and 115 in 2018. The strongest one, well, it was near Donghae on May 15th, and it was 4.5. So we shall see what happens, but they believe it's all related to the condition of the ground, and it looks like we're getting more and more earthquakes.
네. 특히 이제 5월에 지금 말씀하신 동해 쪽에서 지진이 일어나고 연속으로 또 지진이 일어난 바가 있죠. 그러다 보니까 특히 횟수가 좀 늘어난 것 같습니다. 연평균 보통은 70 정도를 유지하다가 이제 작년 같은 경우에는 106회 2.0 이상의 지진이 발생했다라는 겁니다. 한반도와 그다음에 주변 해역 얘기죠.
네.
자, 그럼 첫 번째 표현 보도록 하겠습니다. An earthquake struck.
Yes. So here, strike, the verb strike, we use a lot for a lot of things. I mean, generally speaking, I think of baseball. I think of striking the ball with the baseball bat.
Strike!
Yeah.
이렇게 많이 하죠.
Yeah. So,
네.
so here we have meaning to hit, basically. So if something strikes something, it hits something. But we don't just use it for actual hitting. We can use it for an earthquake, or we can use it for a missile. We can use it for lightning. They can all strike a location. So it basically means it has happened there.
타격을 준다라는 의미입니다. 그래서 이렇게 an earthquake struck the Korean peninsula라는 표현을 쓰고 있습니다. 자, 그 다음에는 surrounding seas라는 표현 한번 볼까요?
Yes, when we think of Korea's surrounding seas, well, we have the Yellow Sea and we have the East Sea. They surround us. In the UK, we're surrounded by the Atlantic Sea, the North Sea, and the English Channel. They are the waters that surround us, that are around us.
surround라는 게 주변에 있다라는 뜻이 있어서 surrounding seas는 주변 해역이 되겠습니다. 그 스피커 중에 surround sound 스피커 너무 좋죠?
When I first got my first surround sound speakers, maybe 20 years ago, it was such an exciting moment.
Yeah, absolutely. 네, 이렇게 주변을 다 에워싸고 있는 스피커 그런 뜻이죠? 자, 그럼 다시 한번 헤드라인을 읽어보겠습니다. The National Weather Agency's annual earthquake report shows that 106 earthquakes with a magnitude of 2 or stronger struck the Korean peninsula and its surrounding seas last year, which is about 50% more than in previous years. Let's move on to the next headline.
The National Human Rights Commission of Korea has called for measures to relieve the digital alienation of seniors by providing customized training and introducing senior-friendly digital devices.
디지털 격차로 인해 노인이 소외되지 않도록 정부가 노인 맞춤형 교육을 하고 디지털 기기 개발 및 보급을 지원하는 등의 대책을 마련해야 한다는 국가인권위원회의 권고안이 나왔습니다. Tell us more, Paul.
Sure. So the Commission has made a recommendation to the Science Minister to say that they think Korea needs this.
Yeah.
They're calling for the introduction of digitalization training courses so that seniors can, well, use everything digital. And it should be what is useful for them or what is needed for them. They're also advising that the government come up with some special guidelines that will then require manufacturers of digital devices to apply what they call a universal design. And a universal design means anybody can use it. Doesn't matter your age. You could be a kid, you could be an adult, you could be a senior citizen, and also you might have a disability. The point is everybody should have access to these devices. They've also recommended that there's a digital help desk and hotline service set up to help any seniors at any time. We shall see what happens, but they're certainly advising strongly that the law needs to be changed and more support needs to be given to senior citizens.
The word universal, as you said, means that it applies to everyone.
Yes.
And everyone rightly should have access to these digital devices and learn how to use it. In fact, they're saying right now it's almost like a violation of digital human rights for the elderly because they're not properly being taught. They need a bit more time, obviously, to learn how to use these things.
Exactly. I have to say, in the last 2 years, the number of screens I have to interact with on a daily basis has doubled, if not tripled or quadrupled.
Yeah, and it's really frustrating when you don't know how to use something. I'm sure the younger generation never face that, but the older you get, sometimes even me, and I'm only in my 40s, sometimes I go, what do you do here? How do you use this?
Exactly. When you're suddenly confronted with a new device, and you're like, do I speak to it? Do I press a button? What happens?
Imagine being like that all the time.
Yeah.
And how frustrating must that be? You want to buy something, you don't know how to buy it or whatever the case may be. 자, 그러면 첫 번째 표현 한번 보도록 하겠습니다. So the aim is to relieve the digital alienation of senior citizens.
Yeah. So I'm sure many of our listeners will be familiar with the word alien. You know, some creature from outer space. But basically,
외계인이요?
it means something from the outside. So if you are experiencing alienation, you feel like you're outside, you're separate to everyone else, you're alone. This feeling of alienation is, I can't do this, but everybody else can. Or I don't know how to do this, or I don't have a device, or whatever it is, you feel like you are separate to the rest of society.
네, 소외되는 것을요, be alienated라고 얘기합니다. 그래서 alienation이 바로 명사 형태의 소외감이 되겠고요. 우리 이제 외계인이라는 의미의 alien도 있지만 외국인이라는 의미로도 alien이 쓰입니다. 어떻게 보면 다 비슷한 맥락이죠.
Well, I'm an alien.
Yeah,
I'm a legal alien.
You're a legal alien.
I'm an Englishman in Korea.
In Korea, that's right. 그렇습니다. 그래서 외국인 등록증을 alien registration이라고도 합니다.
네.
다 같이 알아두시면 될 것 같고요. 어원이 같으니까. 자, 그 다음에 they're going to provide customized training.
Yes, if something is customized, it is tailored for your needs or your wants.
Yeah.
For example, yesterday I had a burger.
Oh.
I had a very nice burger. And the great thing about this burger at this burger place was that you can take away things or add things. You can customize your burger. So I had 2 extra slices of bacon.
Oh, did you? 미국에서는 이런 패스트푸드점에 가면은 고객들이 많이들 개인 취향에 맞춰서
네.
뭐 저 1번 버거에다가 치즈 하나 더 넣어주시고요. 피클은 빼주시고요. 그 다음에 이제 뭐 케첩 대신에 머스터드 넣어주시고 이러면서 커스터마이징을 많이 하더라고요.
Yeah, it's very common. And here now in Korea, maybe not at the big
그런가?
fast food places, but
네.
at the suje burger places, for example, you
of
can
course.
customize your
That's
menu.
right. Yeah, absolutely. 자, 뭔가 이렇게 개인의 요구에 맞춰서 맞춤식으로 하는 것을 customizing 한다라고 하죠. 자, 그럼 다시 한번 읽어보겠습니다. The National Human Rights Commission of Korea has called for measures to relieve the digital alienation of seniors by providing customized training and introducing senior-friendly digital devices.
At least 23 poll workers in Indonesia reportedly died of exhaustion during and after the February 14th general election, according to the country's General Elections Commission, despite efforts to prevent a recurrence of the hundreds of election worker deaths in 2019.
인도네시아 중앙선거관리위원회 발표에 따르면 지난 2월 14일 치러진 대선을 전후로 최소 23명의 투표 관리원이 과로로 사망한 것으로 알려졌습니다. 사망자가 수백 명에 달했던 2019년 사례가 재현되지 않도록 조치를 취했음에도 나온 결과입니다. 듣기로는 인도네시아에서 이렇게 선거관리위원들이 2억 명이 넘는 그런 유권자들을 관리한다면서요.
Yeah, it's a huge number of people.
하루 안에.
Yeah. So they have over 800,000 polling stations across Indonesia on the voting day. 5 million workers as poll administrators, and the ballots are counted manually. So, and it was not just the presidential election; it was also the legislative elections. So, the General Elections Commissioner has spoken and said that it was exhaustion from working long hours until the early hours that these deaths happened. They'll be paying compensation of about $2,300 to each family, as well as funeral expenses. But it's incredibly sad. It's not just the deaths. There were 2,800 workers who also fell ill either on the day or after voting day due to this incredibly heavy workload.
Absolutely. Indonesia has a population of over 270 million.
Yes.
And of those, around 200 million, I believe, were eligible to vote.
Yeah,
So,
and that's a massive job for the country.
incredible indeed. Let's have a look at our first expression. And that is that they died of exhaustion.
Yes, when we think of being exhausted or of exhaustion, we think of being extremely tired, extremely fatigued. We may say sometimes, oh, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, we're probably exaggerating because to be really exhausted, it's you've lost all your energy. You
Yep.
probably can't even move. You just have to lie down and hopefully wait to recover.
I'm exhausted. 하면 나 지쳤어. 라는 뜻이죠. 우리가 일상 대화 속에서 많이 쓰는데요. 원래 이제 탈진, 에너지가 완전히 고갈되는 것을 말합니다. 그래서 these poll workers, P-O-L-L, 이 선거 관리를 하는 그런 인원 중에 20명 이상이 they died of exhaustion, 과로로 사망했다라고 볼 수 있겠고요. This was despite efforts to prevent a recurrence of such a thing.
Yes, and recurrence, well, we have RE as the prefix. And when we have RE as the prefix, it's often going to mean again.
Yeah.
So a recurrence is an occurrence happening another
Again,
time.
yes.
Yeah. And an occurrence is something happening. So basically, if there's a recurrence, the thing that happened before happens another time.
네. O-C-U-R-R O-C-C-U-R-R-E-N-C-E, occurrence. Is it one C or two C's?
It's not occurring to me.
Yeah, it's not occurring to me either. occurrence가 한 번 발생하는 건데요. 앞에 re로 대체하는 거기 때문에 다시 발생하는 것이죠.
Double C, Sue.
Double C's. Yes, thank you.
Yes, I had to check.
Yes, I thought so. 자, occurrence and that occurrence happening again, a recurrence.
Yes.
자, 뭔가가 되풀이되고 반복이 되는 것을 말합니다. 자, 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. At least 23 poll workers in Indonesia reportedly died of exhaustion during and after the February 14th general election, according to the country's General Elections Commission, despite efforts to prevent a recurrence of the hundreds of election worker deaths in 2019. Let's move on to the next headline.
A Delta flight from Amsterdam to Detroit was forced to turn back after maggots rained down on passengers seated beneath a carry-on bag containing rotten fish.
네덜란드에서 미국으로 향하던 델타 항공 기내에서 썩은 생선이 담긴 여행 가방 속 구더기가 그 아래 앉은 탑승객들의 머리 위로 쏟아지는 바람에 해당 항공기가 회항하는 사건이 발생했습니다. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, you and I were talking in the song break. We're like, but why?
Yeah.
But why would anyone bring a fish in that state, or let alone a fish of any kind, onto an aeroplane? But the fish was brought on in a carry-on bag. It was placed in the overhead bin. And one witness told media that he saw at least a dozen maggots falling onto a woman mid-flight. They managed to track these maggots down to this bag, and they found this rotten fish wrapped in a newspaper. And they took it away, and they announced that they were not going to go to Detroit. They were going to head back to Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam. So yes, they had to go on the next available flight. They were allegedly given compensation. So they would be given air miles, hotel room compensation, and meal tickets. But certainly, I feel very, very bad for that poor woman and for the people around her who had to experience that sudden appearance of maggots in midair.
얼마나 깜짝 놀랐겠어요. 상상도 못할 일이 벌어졌으니까. Compensated라는 것은 보상을 받았다라는 뜻인데 이제 나중에 피해를 본 그 승객 같은 경우에는 에어 마일리지, 영어로는 air miles
네.
이렇게 표현을 할 수가 있고요. 그 다음에 hotel accommodation이라고 하셨나요 아까?
Yeah, well, hotel room compensation.
hotel room compensation. 그러니까 객실 보상. 그 다음에는 meal tickets라고 하신 것 같아요.
Yes, so this is very common. If your flight is delayed for a long time, they might give you a meal ticket you can take to the airport restaurant, and you don't pay, but you get a meal.
식사권을 말합니다. 뭐 이런 이제 컴pen세이션이 있기는 했지만 어쨌든 이제 굉장히 승객들이 정말 역겨웠다. 너무 깜짝 놀랐다. 이런 이제 반응을 보였고요. 항공사 측에서는 그곳은 깨끗하게 철저하게 청소를 했고 그다음에 이제 탑승객들이 모두 내린 다음에 다른 항공편에 배정이 됐다고 설명을 했습니다. 아직도 이제 왜 그 이제 썩은 생선이 그렇게 들어가게 된 건지는 뭐 설명이 되어 있지 않아요. 그렇지만 그렇습니다. 자, 첫 번째 표현 보겠습니다. The maggots rained down on the passengers.
Yes. So the expression something rains down on something means something falls on something. However, it's not just one thing. It's many things.
Yeah.
Like rain, like raindrops. You might see in a movie the villain says, I will rain down vengeance upon you, meaning there'll be lots of vengeance on you.
Yeah.
So we use it, for example, confetti rained down on the couple as they left the church after the wedding.
Yeah, there was an influencer last year, I think it was, who made it rain and just threw loads of cash from a helicopter.
So the money rained down on the streets.
The money rained down on the people who were waiting for it. So yeah, so raining down, 이거는 비 오듯이 쏟아지다라는 뜻입니다. 비유적인 표현이고요. Maggots rained down. 구더기가 비 오듯이 그 승객들 위칸에 짐칸에서 쏟아졌다는 얘기가 되겠고요. And it rained down where? On the passengers who were seated beneath.
Yes.
the carry-on bag.
And if you are beneath something, you are under it or underneath it, meaning it is on top of you, it is above you.
underneath랑 이제 같은 의미죠. 뭐뭐 아래에 있었다. beneath 라는 표현을 지금 썼습니다. 자, 그러면 다시 한번 볼게요. A Delta flight from Amsterdam to Detroit was forced to turn back after maggots rained down on passengers seated beneath a carry-on bag containing rotten fish. Let's move on to the final headline.
BTS member Jungkook has made history as the first Asian male artist of the year at the People's Choice Awards, which recognizes excellent artists and entertainers, with the general public and fans voting for the winners.
일반 대중과 팬들이 직접 투표로 수상자를 선정하는 People's Choice Awards의 올해 시상식에서 그룹 방탄소년단의 정국이 아시아 남성으로서는 최초로 남자 아티스트 부문을 수상하는 기록을 세웠습니다. Congratulations to Jungkook.
Yes, but he's a little busy.
He's
doing his
in the
military service at the moment.
Yeah.
But before he went there, he had his solo debut. The first studio album of just him called Golden last November. So yes, it's great that he's won that. I have to say, Stray Kids, the K-pop band, they won in the group or duo category.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift, unsurprisingly, won Female Artist of the Year, well deserved. When it came to movies, Barbie was the fans' favourite. That got the top movie prize.
Wonderful.
And Grey's Anatomy. I can't believe Grey's Anatomy is still going.
Still, yeah.
I remember, 15 years ago, my wife was watching that show, but that was voted TV Show of the Year.
Oh, really?
The great thing about the People's Choice Awards is it is the people voting. When we think of the Oscars or the BAFTAs or other big awards like that, it's often the peers or the group that is voting for the winners, whereas People's Choice is all about the fans saying, we love this person or this movie or this band.
Yeah, that's right. This award recognizes these artists.
Yes, and if someone recognizes you, well, if we use it in everyday speech, are you Sue? I think I recognize you. Meaning
Yes, you have recognized me.
I notice who you are. In this case, though, it means that you're publicly honoring or publicly appreciating someone or some group or something.
네. 이 헤드라인에서는 무언가를 공식 인정한다라는 느낌으로 썼지만 우리가 일상적으로는요. 알아보다 라는 뜻으로 많이 쓰는 동사입니다. 그래서 Oh, I recognized you. On the street. I wasn't sure. And then I thought, oh, is that Paul? Yes, it's Paul. And I recognized you. 이렇게 누군가 알아볼 때 또 많이 씁니다. 자, 그 다음에는 general public.
We were talking about military service, so don't get confused. It's not a changun. It's
No,
not
no.
a general. But when we use general public, it means, well, all of us. It means ordinary people.
The public.
Yeah. So, for example, the government will issue announcements to the general public, but there will also be information that is not available to the general public because it is secret or private or has yet to be announced.
일반 대중, general public. 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. BTS member Jungkook has made history as the first Asian male artist of the year at the People's Choice Awards, which recognizes excellent artists and entertainers, with the general public and fans voting for the winners.
South Korea has been the largest importer of U.S. beef globally since 2021, with more than 233,000 metric tons of American beef entering the country last year, according to a new report.
한국이 지난 2021년 이후부터 미국산 소고기를 가장 많이 수입하는 나라라는 보고서가 나왔습니다. 이에 따르면 우리나라의 지난해 미국산 소고기 수입량은 23만 3천 톤 이상인 것으로 나타났습니다. Tell us more.
So, Korea is importing a lot of U.S. beef.
Yeah.
It became the number one importer of U.S. beef it's been for the past 3 years or so. So this is according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture and the U.S. Meat Export Federation. South Korea imported more than 233,000 tons of U.S. beef last year, and this was more than China and Hong Kong as well as Japan. So in terms
of value, the amount of beef imports from the U.S. last year reached $2.04 billion, or about 2.7 trillion won, and this was also ahead of China and Hong Kong's nearly $2 billion and Japan's $1.3 billion. So apparently, the beef imports reached a record high back in 2022, but the amount sort of decreased last year, and then it's jumped up again this year.
So Korea is still the number one importer of US beef, but compared to 2022, the figures for 2023 were slightly down.
Right.
Okay, let's have a look at our first expression. The largest importer of something.
Right. The largest import, well, first of all, importer or to import something means to bring goods or services into a country from abroad for sale. So in this case, it would be beef from the U.S. that's imported or brought into Korea to be sold here and consumed by Korean consumers. And if you're the largest importer of something, that means you are the number one. You're importing the most.
The largest importing country라는 또 다른 말로 the largest importer of something. 무언가를 가장 많이 수입하는 나라. 자, 그 다음에는요. To enter a country라는 표현이 나옵니다.
Right. So to enter, it means to come or go into a place. So, we use this a lot when we're talking about, for example, imports or exports. When something comes into the country, we can use the word just very simply as enter.
들어온다라는 뜻이죠. 그래서 우리가 출입구를 보통 entrance라고 하는데 들어오는 문이라는 뜻이 되겠습니다. 자, 다시 한번 헤드라인 읽어볼게요. South Korea has been the largest importer of US beef globally since 2021, with more than 233,000 metric tons of American beef entering the country last year, according to a new report. Let's move on to the second headline.
The European Commission is reportedly set to fine Apple approximately 500 million euros over alleged breaches of EU competition law, as reported by the Financial Times, citing unnamed sources familiar with the matter.
유럽연합 EU가 반독점법 위반 혐의로 애플에 약 5억 유로의 과징금을 부과할 것으로 보인다고 Financial Times가 익명의 관련 소식통을 인용해 보도했습니다. Okay, what's going on here?
Right, so it seems to be an ongoing case. So an investigation was first launched back in 2019 after Spotify filed a formal complaint. And they claim that Apple restricted apps from informing users about cheaper subscription alternatives outside its app store. So they're kind of, getting the consumers to use their app more. So Brussels has formally charged Apple in this anti-competitive probe back in 2021, and it looks into whether Apple violated EU competition laws by restricting these apps from informing users about cheaper alternatives. So in most regions, they say Apple's App Store, it prohibits companies like Spotify from billing users for subscriptions directly with their app. So it makes them instead use Apple's App Store billing service, and they charge a fee for that. So this is what's becoming the problem. And the Financial Times reported the European Commission will accuse Apple of abusing its power and will ban its quote-unquote unfair trading conditions in regards to its music service subscription policies. And if this fine is imposed, they're saying that it's one of the most substantial financial penalties the EU has imposed on a major technology company.
So in short, it's a battle between Apple and Spotify.
Yeah.
스포티파이는 그 디지털 뮤직 웹사이트 서비스라고 볼 수 있겠죠. 그런데 애플의 앱스토어를 통해서 스포티파이를 다운로드 받는 거고요. 그 다음에 스포티파이를 이제 이용하게 될 경우에 우리가 in-app purchases라고 하는 게 있죠. 그 앱 내에서 뭐 이것저것 이제 구매하게 되는 것들. 이제 그것을 사용하려면, 그것을 스포티파이가 그런 것을 사용하려면 이제 애플 앱스토어를 통해서 일단은 이제 사람들이 스포티파이를 다운받게 되는데 스포티파이의 입장에서는 애플사에다가 일명 애플 텍스 수수료를 많이 내야 된다고 합니다. 근데 여러 가지로 이제 애플사가 스포티파이에게 좀 불리한
Yeah.
더 성장할 수도 있는데
Yeah.
너무나 이런 수수료를 많이 부과하다 보니까 스포티파이가 지금 애플사가
It's unfair.
지금 불공정하게 우리를 대하고 있다 이런 주장을 펼쳐왔죠 지금 꽤
And it's a
오랫동안.
pretty hefty Apple tax because they
Yeah.
say the cut's up to 30%.
Yeah,
so
it's really big.
It's a lot.
That's right. 그렇습니다. 자, 그래서 이제 EU가 그에 대해서 어떤 결정을 내릴지 지금 귀추가 주목이 되는 가운데 EU라는 표현 대신에 지금 Brussels라고 여러 번
Yes.
언급을 했는데요. EU의 headquarters가 거기에 있기 때문에 같은 단어, synonymous하게
Yeah.
EU 대신에 영어에서 Brussels라고 얘기 많이 합니다. 자, 그러면 우리 첫 번째 표현 볼게요. Apple is alleged to have
Right.
breached the competition law.
Right, right. So you can say alleged, you can say alleged, but it means when you're allegedly something, it means you're accused but not proven
Yeah.
or convicted of it can be of an incident or a person. So it's when you don't have proof, but something may have taken place. Or and it's usually related to law. You know, if
Yeah.
it's illegal or maybe a little undesirable, you think it happened, but you don't have proof, or you are not sure, or if it's not proven, then you use this word.
그래요. 혐의가 있다라는 뜻인데요. 뒤에 breaches라는 단어가 나옵니다. 위반이라는 뜻이죠. 자, 무언가 위반했다는 혐의가 지금 있다는 얘기입니다. 100% 입증되거나 지금 어떤 결론이 나온 것은 아니지만 there are alleged breaches from Apple and Spotify has been insisting that the EU do something about it for quite some time.
Yeah.
And it looks like this might happen.
Yeah.
500 million euros,
Yeah.
which would be a very big fine. 자, 그 다음에는 unnamed sources를 quoting했다고 하는데요.
That's right. So if you're unnamed, it means your name is not known. So another word that we can use is to remain anonymous. If you are a source, it means you're an informant. So I guess more generally, it's a place, a person, or a thing from which something comes or can be obtained. But in this case, we're talking about someone who has provided information.
unnamed. 이름이 밝혀지지 않은 이게 바로 익명이라는 뜻입니다. 그래서 unnamed sources라고 하는 게 익명의 소식통이고요. 뒤에 나온 familiar with the matter 역시 마찬가지로 이 문제에 있어서 정통한 그것을 알고 있는 소식통이라는 뜻이 다 되겠고요. 비슷한 표현으로 방금 설명해 주셨죠. To remain anonymous.
Yeah.
아니면 그냥 according to an anonymous source라고 할 수도 있습니다. 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. The European Commission is reportedly set to fine Apple approximately 500 million euros over alleged breaches of EU competition law, as reported by the Financial Times, citing unnamed sources familiar with the matter.
Seoul has announced plans to reduce the speed limit on 50 back roads within school zones from 30 kilometers per hour to 20 kilometers per hour and increase the installation of street lights on the floor and voice guidance aids at crosswalks with heavy pedestrian traffic and areas prone to frequent traffic accidents.
서울시는 어린이 보호구역인 스쿨존 내 50개의 이면도로의 제한 속도를 시속 30km에서 20km로 낮추고 보행자 통행량이 많은 횡단보도 및 교통사고 다발 지역에 바닥 신호등과 음성 안내 보조 신호기 등을 확대 설치할 예정이라고 발표했습니다. Okay, tell us more, Karen.
Yeah, so the speed limit will be reduced from the current 30 kilometers per hour to 20 kilometers per hour in about 50 additional locations within these child protection zones or school areas. And in addition to that, Seoul City is planning to expand the installation of the floor signals where, you can see the green light when the light turns green and you can see it. Because everyone's looking at their phones. So it's easier to see when it's on the floor.
Yeah.
So I guess that's, one of the reasons why they're doing that. And they also have the voice guidance signals at crosswalks with a lot of pedestrian traffic and points where traffic accidents are frequent. And this move comes because they analyzed the traffic information and accidents. We have not only the speeding cameras, but we have these cameras that kind of monitor the traffic situation in Seoul. And they say that they found the number of accidents actually decreased by about 71%. So this must have influenced the city's decision to put in these new measures, especially in roads that are very small, that have no separation between the car, where the car goes and where pedestrians travel.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be speeding in those areas anyways. So I think it's good that they are enforcing these measures. They also announced that they're going to be installing about 180 additional speed cameras in these school zones. And, they're going to be in consultation with the police and education authorities to make sure that it is an area that's heavily used by children to make sure that they're safe. And they're planning on installing new signals at certain places and replacing these yellow signals, I think, for increased visibility for
Yeah.
pedestrians.
Yes. 자, 그러니까 이제 스쿨 존에 지금 현재는 스쿨 존은 다 시속 30km로 제한이 되어 있죠. 물론 시간별로 좀 다릅니다. 작년 말쯤에 이제 밤과 이른 아침 같은 경우에는
Yeah.
이제 그 근처에 어린이들이 없으니까 또 운전하는 분들의 편의를 위해서 밤 9시부터 아침 7시까지는 스쿨 존의 일반 도로에서 시속 30에서 시속 50으로 스피드 리밋을 조금 올린다라고 발표를 했었죠. 자, 그것과는 별개로 스쿨 존 내에 있는 이면 도로를 지금 얘기하고 있는 겁니다.
Yeah.
일반 도로가 아니고요. 왜 차로와 그다음에 그 인도가 구별이 되어 있지 않는 소위 우리가 말하는 골목이죠.
just a road,
네,
yeah.
골목.
Those alleyways.
맞습니다. 네, 도로폭이 총 8m가 되지 않는, 그래서 차와 이제 사람이 따로 다니는 게 나눠져 있지 않은 그런 이면 도로에 이제 앞으로는 시속 20km라는 더욱더 강화된 그런 스피드 리미트가 적용이 된다는 거고요. 이런 골목들 같은 경우에는 24시간 적용이 됩니다.
Yeah.
네, 그래서 스쿨 존 운전하실 때 참고하시면 좋을 것 같고요. 아무쪼록 항상 천천히 조심해서
Yeah.
운전을
I
하는 게
think I
좋죠.
did mention this when we were talking about the news related to putting in the hours,
Yeah.
so make sure the drivers can not speed, but go a little bit faster.
왜냐하면 새벽에 배달을 하시는 분이라든지 아니면
They're on
새벽에
a
일하시는
crunch.
분들 많으시거든요. 그래서 그런 분들은 사실 예를 들어서 밤 12시, 새벽 2시, 3시에 스쿨 존에서 운전할 때 시속 30으로 가는 것은 크게 의미가
Yeah, because
없다라고
it's
해서
going down from 50 to 30.
맞아요.
Right,
그래서 이제 이게 아마 작년 몇 월 달이었는지는 기억이 안 나지만
Yeah.
작년 한 하반기쯤에
Yeah.
발표가 됐어요.
Yeah.
일반 도로 같은 경우에는 스쿨 존에서 밤 9시부터 아침 7시까지는 시속 50으로 달릴 수가 있다. 그런 거 저희가 모닝스페셜에서도 전해드렸었고
Yeah.
자, 지금 이 뉴스는 이면 도로의 얘기가 되겠습니다.
Yep.
서울시에 있는 50개의 이면 도로가 이렇게 제한 속도가 내려갑니다. 자, 그것뿐만 아니라 또 아까 그 얘기하셨죠. 바닥 신호등도 이제 더 많이 설치를 할 예정이고 음성 안내 보조 신호기도 확대 설치한다. These are areas where there's heavy pedestrian traffic.
Right. So we say pedestrian traffic, we can also say foot traffic. So it means a lot of people are moving around, walking around, whereas you can also refer it to as just the places where there are a lot of people. So when something is heavy, here it means there's a lot. So
Yeah.
a lot of people walking around these areas, we'll see some new measures being put in place.
heavy pedestrian traffic가 있는 곳은 보행자 통행량이 많은 곳이라고 보면 되겠습니다. 자, 그 다음에 prone to something.
Yeah, if you're prone to something, it means you're likely to do it or have a habit of doing it or are susceptible to it. So when you use this phrase, it's usually for something that's bad. It means to have a tendency to be affected by it or to do it.
그래요. be prone to 뭐뭐뭐 하는 것은 무언가가 잘 일어난다라는 뜻이 있습니다. 그래서 우리 한참 사춘기 때 피부에 뾰루지 나잖아요.
Yeah, acne.
그럴
Yep.
때는 I'm prone to acne라고 얘기할 수 있어요. 뾰루지가 잘 나요 이런 뜻으로. 근데 여기서는 areas that are prone to traffic accidents. 교통사고가 많이 일어나는 곳. 그런 곳에다가는 이제 음성 안내 보조기라든지 바닥 신호등을 확대 설치를 해서 교통사고가 전혀 일어나지 않아야겠죠.
Right?
자, 그런 목적을 하고 있습니다. 자, 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. Seoul has announced plans to reduce the speed limit on 50 back roads within school zones from 30 kilometers an hour to 20 kilometers per hour and increase the installation of street lights on the floor and voice guidance aids at crosswalks with heavy pedestrian traffic and areas prone to frequent traffic accidents. Let's move on to the next headline.
A severe sandstorm has engulfed parts of China's Xinjiang, turning the sky orange and reducing visibility to less than 100 meters, while a cold wave has plummeted temperatures in the region to minus 52 degrees Celsius.
중국 신장 일부 지역에 강력한 모래폭풍이 불어닥쳐 가시거리가 100m도 안 되는 한편 한파로 인해 이 지역 기온은 영하 52도까지 떨어졌습니다. Okay, so let's talk about Xinjiang then.
Yeah, it sounds like apocalyptic news.
Yeah, it looks
the
like
world is coming to an end.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen some of the video footage and images. It looks like a scene from Mars.
Yeah.
It's very red and orange.
Yeah. So what's happening there, this is according to the China Meteorological Administration. They issued a warning for strong winds and sandstorms, and it also elevated the alert to the highest level, saying temperature drops would be the most extreme until February 22nd. So it's expected to go on a little bit further. So this is according to a local news TV channel. They say these severe sandstorms have damaged vehicles in Turpan, Xinjiang, while many travelers were also stranded on the road due to the reduced visibility that's been caused by the thick blowing sand that's turning the skies orange. And they were thankfully evacuated by police and fire department personnel. As for the temperatures, they say that it broke the 64-year-old record in China's far western region on Sunday, plunging to a bone-chilling minus 52.3 degrees Celsius, and it's the lowest since records began in Xinjiang, and it surpasses a temperature of minus 51.5 degrees Celsius, which was set back in 1960. And it's actually just shy of the lowest national temperature of minus 53 degrees Celsius, which was set in Mohe, a city in the northeastern province of Heilongjiang on January 22nd last year. So we're seeing extreme temperatures along with the severe sandstorms. So it sounds like you need to stay home.
Exactly. 자, 우선은 그 모래폭풍이 토네이도로 변해가지고 그 영상을 누가 찍었는데요. 거기를 보면은 마치 뭐 오렌지색 필터를 해놓은 것처럼 정말 그냥 주황색입니다. 그 공기 자체가. 그 다음에는 이 토네이도가 정말 무섭게 모래 폭풍이 이제 토네이도로 변해가지고 지역을 이렇게 집어삼키는 모습이 포착이 됐는데 그런 거에다가 또 기온이 영하 52.3도까지 떨어졌다고 64년 만에 가장 추운 기온이었다고 합니다.
Can you imagine? I can't
No,
even
I can't.
imagine. I mean, we talked about the temperatures in Europe dropping to negative 40 degrees, but those regions, I already kind of, in my head, it's, you know, Scandinavian countries, so they're cold countries, but minus 52 degrees, I can't even imagine.
Exactly. 정말 상상도 할 수 없다. We can't imagine it. You can't fathom it. 이렇게 표현할 수도 있습니다. 그리고 아까 뼛속까지 추운 날씨라고 표현을 해주셨죠. 그러니까 bone-chilling temperatures라고 하셨습니다. 자, 그럼 표현 볼게요. engulfing.
Right. To engulf means to sweep over something so as to surround it or cover it completely. When we talk about engulf, we usually use it for these sort of natural disasters. Maybe something can be engulfed in flames. If a house is burning down, we could say the house has been engulfed in flames.
완전히 뒤덮다라는 뜻인데요. 화염에 휩싸였을 때 the house has been engulfed in flames라고 할 수 있다는 예시 주셨고요. 자, 그다음에 visibility.
Visibility, it's talking about how clearly objects can be seen or how far you can see clearly, usually because of the weather. So we talk about reduced visibility. So we say be careful on the roads due to reduced visibility. It could be due to sandstorms. It could be due to fog. It could
Yeah.
be due to heavy snow. So it's basically the distance that you can see as determined by maybe the light or weather conditions.
I think the longer term is visibility range, but people just say visibility.
Visibility, yeah.
네, 가시거리라는 뜻으로 visibility를 이렇게 쓸 수 있습니다. 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. A severe sandstorm has engulfed parts of China's Xinjiang, turning the sky orange and reducing visibility to less than 100 meters, while a cold wave has plummeted temperatures in the region to minus 52 degrees Celsius. Here's our final headline.
The annual migration of millions of Christmas Island red crabs to the sea where they mate has begun 2 months later than expected due to unusually dry weather conditions.
매년 이뤄지는 호주 크리스마스 섬 홍게의 산란철 대이동이 올해는 비정상적으로 건조한 날씨 때문에 2달 늦게 시작됐습니다. Okay. Again, climate related, I would assume.
So one area, it's engulfed by a sandstorm and freezing temperatures. In another area of the world, more specifically Christmas Island in Australia, they've been suffering from, I guess, low precipitation, no rain. It's very dry there, and apparently this is affecting the red crabs that call this island home. So they say there are more than 100 million of them that live on Christmas Island, and much of the island is actually designated as a national park. And these crabs are very unique, and they've been protected by Australian law. But authorities say that the exceptionally dry conditions have put a damper on this season's migration, which normally sees these masses of I don't know if you've seen footages of these crabs.
Yeah.
They cover the road.
They have signs saying traffic has to stop or something, or you have to yield to the crabs because they're in their hundreds.
Yeah. Millions.
Oh, actually, yeah,
Hundreds of
way more than
millions.
100, exactly.
Right. So thankfully, the migration has begun, but they say that it's the first time that it's happened as late as February. So it usually happens around December, January, around that time. But it's happening about 2 months later than expected. And it's the first time they say that it's happened so late since they started tracking these crabs'
dear.
movement back in the 1980s. So the reason why they migrate is they journey from the inside of the island to the ocean, and that's where they mate. The females then stay behind in burrows near the ocean to hatch their eggs, and then the males return inland.
크리스마스 아일랜드는 호주 영토인데요. 위치는 인도네시아 자바섬에서 이제 남쪽으로 있는 곳에 있습니다. 이 크리스마스 아일랜드의 이 홍게들이 보통은 한 11월에서 1월 사이에 이렇게 산란철을 맞아서 이동을 한다고 해요. 엄청난 대이동이기 때문에 이제 도로를 건너고 이럴 때는 교통이 다 이제 마비가 될 정도죠.
I mean, because if you think about it, if a car goes through, you'll be killing a lot
그래서
of
그때
them.
이제 표지판 그 임시 표지판 같은 걸 놓고 이제 그 홍게들이 지나가니 이제 지금은 교통 통제합니다. 그래서 통제를 할 정도라고 해요. 그 정도로 굉장히 많은 이제 홍게들이 지금 이미 다 지나갔어야 됐거든요. 그런데 평소보다 한 2달 정도 이렇게 산란철이 미뤄졌다라는 것은 역시 기후 문제라고 볼 수 있죠. 실제로 너무 날씨가 건조해서 그러다 보니까 홍게들이 이동하기 좋지 않은 환경이었다. 이렇게 전문가들은 분석을 합니다. 자, 그 이동하는 거. migration.
Migration. We talk about migratory birds, but migration, it refers to the seasonal movement of animals from one region to another, but it could also be a migration of people as well.
Yeah.
If there's a large number of people that are moving to a different country at one time, we could say it's a migration.
철새를 migratory birds라고 하고요. 이렇게 큰 숫자로 그 동물들이 이동하는 것을 migration이라고 얘기하죠. 뭐 사람들에 관해서는 이주라는 뜻으로도 쓸 수 있고요.
Yep.
Weather conditions.
Weather conditions. So you're describing typical weather phenomenon, such as it could be a thunderstorm, sandstorm, a foggy morning. So anything when you're talking about the weather and how it is expected for that day, you could use this term weather conditions.
네, 기상 상태라는 뜻이 되겠습니다. 자, 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. The annual migration of millions of Christmas Island red crabs to the sea, where they mate, has begun 2 months later than expected due to unusually dry weather conditions.
Business sentiment in Korea worsened in February due to sluggish domestic consumption amid project financing woes, posting the lowest figure in 3 years and 5 months since September 2020.
부동산 프로젝트 파이낸싱 부실 우려 속에 내수 부진까지 겹치면서 2월 국내 기업 체감 경기를 나타내는 기업 경기 실사 지수 BSI가 3년 5개월 만에 최저치를 기록했습니다. Tell us more, Ray.
Well, you just mentioned the BSI, the Business Survey Index. The Bank of Korea released on Wednesday that the BSI for all industries stood at 68 in February. Now, what does that mean? 68, any reading below 100 means pessimists outnumber optimists.
Right.
So more people think that things are not looking good than the people who think things are looking good. And that's down one point from the previous month, from January. Now, another index for non-manufacturing industry, so this is things like restaurants and wholesalers and retail businesses, it remained unchanged in February, but its number is even lower at 67.
그렇군요. 자, 100을 기준으로 해서 BSI라는 기업의 경기 인식을 조사하는 지표인데요. 이 비즈니스 서베이 인덱스가 100 이하면은 지금 경기에 대해서 pessimistically 이게 부정적으로 보는 것이죠. 그리고 100 이상이면은 optimistically 긍정적으로 내다본다는 얘기인데 지금 68이라고 하셨죠. 68 in February?
That's right.
그래요. Okay, tell us more about that. I guess did you say it's down or it's gone?
down.
It's down
Yeah.
from the previous month.
Right.
And it's been going down, I think, for a few months prior to that as well. So things are looking quite sluggish, would you say?
Right. Yeah. Apparently, that's what how people are feeling, especially with domestic consumption, which Korea is the local economy is all based on consumption.
Yeah.
When we talk about sluggish, it just means something is slow. You can say you feel sluggish. A lot of people
Yeah.
feel sluggish in the morning, and that's why they drink a cup of coffee.
Exactly. sluggish라는 것이 이제 느릿느릿 움직인다라는 민달팽이에서 나온 표현입니다. slug가 민달팽이거든요. 그래서 이제 경제에 대한 얘기일 때 경기가 부진하다라고 볼 수 있고 내 몸이 아침에 일어나자마자 이렇게 빠릿빠릿하지 않고 뭔가 축 처지는 느낌이 좀 있죠. 그럴 때도 I feel sluggish 할 수 있습니다. Now, what about financing woes or just any kind of woes?
Problems.
Problems.
Yeah, so woes just means problem. Usually we'll talk about something adds to someone's woes. So maybe you're having a problem this morning and then the weather added to your woes. It was just another problem.
woes. 여기는 복수 형태로 썼는데요. 단수 형태는 W-O-E, woe이고요. 어떤 어려움이나 불행을 말합니다.
And you'll always hear it in plural.
Oh, is it never in the singular?
Not in this way. Yeah, when you
okay.
talk about woes, it's like
Yeah.
adding to problems.
Yeah, I think in poetry you might hear woe is mine. So,
Woe is me.
Woe is
right,
me.
and that
you
just
know,
means I'm sad.
Yeah, so that's in the singular, but it's a poem, so it's used slightly
Yeah,
differently.
people say that, woe is me. It's
Woe
a
is me.
phrase, right?
Ah,
Just
okay.
means I'm sad. I'm not happy with my situation.
아, 그럼 이거 그냥 외우면 되겠네요. Woe is me라는 표현. 이거는 그냥 정말 나 너무 불행하다, 그렇게 느껴진다라는 뜻으로 보시면 되겠습니다. 자, 다시 한번 제가 읽어볼게요. Business sentiment in Korea worsened in February due to sluggish domestic consumption amid project financing woes, posting the lowest figure in 3 years and 5 months since September 2020. Moving on, this is our second headline.
Korean-style fried chicken has been selected as the most sought-after food by overseas tourists in 2023, while raw crab marinated in soy sauce, known as 간장게장, took second place.
외국인 관광객들이 지난해 가장 많이 찾은 한국 음식 1위는 프라이드 치킨이었으며 간장에 절인 생계 요리인 간장게장이 2위를 차지했습니다. Okay. Do you agree? Was this your favorite Korean food, fried chicken?
Well, it wouldn't be my favorite Korean food because I like more traditional Korean dishes like galbijjim or things like that.
Okay.
But I do love Korean fried chicken, so I'm not surprised by this. And also, so I have some interesting information here where this kind of breaks down by where the travelers are from. So Korean style fried chicken, as well as street food like gimbap or tteokbokki, ramyeon, that was most sought after by travelers from Western countries.
Oh, so like America, Canada.
Yeah, the UK. And I'm not surprised
Okay.
because Korean fried chicken is all over the US right now. And
Yeah.
like it's advertised as Korean fried chicken.
And it's different to the fried chicken they have in America.
Yeah, right, exactly. Because it's more spicy and they use gochujang and things like that. So it's a little bit different.
Right.
And then also like gimbap is becoming more popular. I'm not surprised that people like tteokbokki as well.
Yeah.
However, travelers from China, Taiwan, and Hong Kong, they were the ones purchasing more of the 간장게장. 85% of their food
see.
purchases.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that 간장게장 was number 2.
Yeah, right. But
Yeah.
it's all definitely because of the influence of Asian travelers. Another interesting thing is Japanese travelers,
Yeah.
they chose 한정식. They wanted to try that more.
Yeah.
And desserts were also really popular. So donuts and bingsu were really popular, and they were most popular among Westerners and Singaporean travelers.
그러니까 나라별로 어느 나라에서 온 관광객이냐에 따라서 선호하는 게 조금 다르긴 했지만요. 전반적으로 봤을 때는 이제 서양 국가에서는 치킨, 김밥, 떡볶이, 그리고 이제 동양 국가, 아시아 국가에서 온 관광객들 같은 경우에는 이제 간장게장이 정말 인기가 많았군요. 한정식도 인기가 많았다고 하고요. 자, so these foods are sought after.
Something is sought after, it means people really want it. They're seeking it.
Yes. seek의 과거 형태가 sought입니다. S-O-U-G-H-T. 그래서 sought hyphen after 한 단어인데요. 많은 사람들이 찾는다라는 뜻입니다.
It doesn't have to just be items either. People can be sought after.
Sure.
So sports teams really there'll be like a sought after player, especially a free agent on the market.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to get that player. Or
Like
company.
류현진.
Yeah, exactly. He was highly sought after when the Blue Jays signed him as well.
Exactly. Someone or something is sought after. 이렇게 표현하고요. What about food that's marinated?
When you marinate food, you soak it in a sauce,
Yeah.
usually before cooking it
Yeah.
for meat, and it softens the meat. But you can also marinate vegetables as well. A lot of Korean side dishes are marinated.
그렇죠. 어떤 이제 소스에다가 절인, 푹 담궈서 절인 음식을 marinated 했다라고 얘기하는데요. 여기서는 이제 간장게장 얘기를 하는 겁니다. 그래서 간장에 절인 crab 요리를 얘기하고 있죠. Alright, well, here's the headline again. Korean-style fried chicken has been selected as the most sought-after food by overseas tourists in 2023, while raw crab marinated in soy sauce, known as 간장게장, took second place.
The legal team of WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has opened a final UK legal challenge to stop their client from being sent to the US to face spying charges, arguing that American authorities are seeking to punish him for exposing serious criminal acts by the US government.
위키릭스 설립자 줄리안 애산지가 기밀 불법 유출 혐의로 미국으로 송환되는 것을 막기 위한 마지막 법정 싸움을 영국에서 시작했습니다. 애산지 측 법률팀은 미국 정부의 심각한 범죄 행위를 폭로했다는 이유로 미국이 그를 처벌하려 한다고 주장했습니다. Okay, so it's been years and years since he's been would you say in hiding or
It hasn't been in hiding.
Not hiding yet per se, but yeah. So what's happening right now then?
Well, he's been indicted on 17 charges of espionage and one charge of computer misuse. And this was over his website's publication of classified U.S. documents almost 15 years ago.
Yeah, wow, 15 years.
And American prosecutors, they say he helped a former U.S. Army intelligence analyst steal diplomatic cables and military files that WikiLeaks published. And they said that put lives at risk. His lawyers, Assange lawyers, they're saying he could face up to 175 years in prison if convicted.
Right.
But American authorities say no, it would be much less than that. And then you've got his supporters that they say he exposed U.S. military wrongdoing in Iraq and Afghanistan, and they say that all of this prosecution is all politically motivated. And he won't get a fair trial in the U.S., they say. And there's also a lot of talk about how his physical and mental health has really deteriorated.
Oh, is he not well?
No, especially after all these legal battles. Like he spent 7 years in the Ecuadorian embassy in London.
Yeah.
And he's been in a British high security prison for the last 5 years.
Okay, so the Australian, 52 years old currently, Julian Assange. 벌써 굉장히 오랫동안 이제 각종 그 지금 말했던 prison이라든지 detention center, is it a detention center?
What's that?
Where he's at.
It's a high security prison.
Okay, so it is then. You could call it
Yeah,
that.
he's in jail.
그렇게
Well, not
표현할
he's in
수도 있겠죠.
prison.
지금 오랫동안 이렇게 있고요. 이제 미국으로 송환이 되느냐 안 되느냐를 가지고 계속해서 법정 싸움이 이루어지고 있다고 볼 수 있을 것 같습니다. 미국으로 만약에 가서 법정 앞에 서게 되면은 뭐 많게는 170년 이상의 그런 형을 받을 수도 있겠다. 뭐 그런 예상도 나오고 있고. 근데 이제 그것이 정당하지 않다라는 입장들도 있고요. 팽팽하게 양측의 입장이 맞서고 있습니다. 자, 첫 번째 표현을 한번 볼 텐데요. Julian Assange could be facing spying charges.
So if you face charges, then that means you've been charged with a crime.
Yeah.
You're going to have to stand trial for that. If you face punishment, so he also faces jail time. Or, some people, when they get in trouble, they could face paying a fine. It means that it might happen if you're convicted.
face something이라는 것이 직면하다라는 뜻이 있는데요. face spying charges라고 하면은 이제 간첩 행위를 한 그런 혐의로 어떻게 보면은 이제 그런 법정 싸움에 법정에 서게 될 수도 있다. 뭐 이렇게 볼 수도 있겠고요. 그런 혐의를 받는다. 이렇게 볼 수도 있겠습니다. 자, 그다음으로는 to expose something.
If you expose something, especially information, it's revealed. And this is also something that has been hidden or kept secret. So if you expose some truth or some information, you just make it known to everybody.
그래요. 그러니까 expose라는 것은 폭로하다, 노출하다 이런 뜻이 있는 거죠. And Julian Assange has been in the UK prison since 2019, I believe. So it's been quite some time. Okay, well, let's have another read through of this headline. I'm going to do that right now. The legal team of WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has opened a final UK legal challenge to stop their client from being sent to the US to face spying charges, arguing that American authorities are seeking to punish him for exposing serious criminal acts by the US government. And here's our next headline.
Brazilian police officers have donned superhero costumes to dismantle a network of foreign thieves stealing cell phones from revelers enjoying post-carnival festivities.
브라질 경찰이 카니발 축제를 즐기는 사람들의 휴대폰을 노린 외국인 소매치기단을 검거하기 위해 인기 슈퍼히어로 분장을 하고 나섰습니다. Okay, so this is a different way of
Yeah, it's interesting, but
Yeah.
it sounds like it was successful actually.
Okay.
And because thieves then they don't, they're, it's petty theft, right?
Yeah.
But if they don't know who's a police officer and who's a potential target, makes it a little bit harder. So the Sao Paulo police, they dressed up in the costume of a Mexican superhero called El Chapulín, Colorado, which translates to the red grasshopper. So and apparently they nabbed 4 suspects and they recovered 6 stolen cell phones. And also during Carnival, which ran from February 9th to 17th, police officers wore shirts and shorts with flowers on them, the type of, vacation wear, what people would wear, or Brazilian soccer jerseys. And then they were able to arrest almost 60 people for many different crimes.
wow, okay.
Almost 200 cell phones, 600 bank cards that were stolen during the festival.
좀도둑을 잡기 위한 작전입니다. petty theft에서 petty라는 거는요. 적은 금액을 말합니다. 아주 작다라는 뜻이에요. theft는 도둑질이 되겠고 그래서 이렇게 핸드폰을 훔친다든지 아니면 신용카드를 훔친다든지 하는 그런 도둑들을 실제로 이렇게 경찰이 분장을 해서 많이 잡았다고 합니다. 이 카나발 축제 기간 동안에는 다들 분장을 하고 있으니까 그 안에 들어가서 잠복 근무를 했다고 볼 수도 있겠죠. So what did the police do? They donned costumes.
If you don something, you wear it. You
Yeah.
put it on. So
Yeah.
you've donned some glasses this morning.
I have. 뭔가를 착용하다라는 뜻이 있어요. D-O-N, don. 자, 그 다음에 dismantle.
Take something apart. And
Yeah.
a lot of times we're talking about something physical, like a piece of furniture, for example. You have to take it apart. Especially when you move, many people have to do that.
네.
But in this case, they're talking about dismantling a network. So again, it's a little bit more figurative, but they're taking it apart.
네. dismantle이라는 것 자체는 무언가를 해체한다는 뜻이 있는데 근데 여기서는 이제 소매치기 단을 검거했다라는 뜻으로 볼 수 있겠죠. 다시 한번 읽어보겠습니다. Brazilian police officers have donned superhero costumes to dismantle a network of foreign thieves, stealing cell phones from revelers enjoying the post-carnival festivities. And this is our final headline.
A report has found that 4.1 million Americans will turn 65 this year, with the surge dubbed a silver tsunami continuing through 2027.
미국의 올해 65세 이상 퇴직 인구가 410만 명으로 급증했으며 일명 실버 쓰나미로 불리는 이런 급증세가 2027년까지 지속될 거라는 보도가 나왔습니다. The silver tsunami. Tell us more.
Well, they're saying that this has been achieved through medical advancements, also better diets, which has helped the U.S.'s more than 61 million baby boomers grow older. However, as much as they're saying that baby boomers are getting older, this has also come at a time where they're realizing America, their overall life expectancy has fallen far behind the rest of the developed world since the pandemic. So experts now estimate the average American will live to just 77 years old. This is the lowest number in 30 years. It's 80 in the UK, nearly 82 in Canada, and 83 in Australia. Now, what things are being blamed or what are they looking at for this or reasons for it? Researchers, they're attributing America's low life expectancy to obesity rates, which anyone who's been there can see, and it's not surprising. Heart disease, alcohol, smoking, diabetes, and also a five-fold increase in drug overdose deaths over this past decade, which has primarily been fueled by a rise in fentanyl, which is a huge problem, especially in North America.
아, 그렇군요. 한편으로는 medical advancements and better diet. 그러니까 의료계의 발전과 더 좋아진 식단 등으로 인해서 많은 미국인들이 이렇게 65세 이상 퇴직 이후에 그런 이제 연령대가 돼도 건강하게 사는 그런 측면도 있지만 그래서 실제로 이제 65세 이상의 퇴직 인구가 많아져서 그 은빛 쓰나미다 이런 말이 지금 붙여지고 있지만 또 한편으로는 미국의 평균 수명이 77세라고 합니다. 다른 선진국들에 비하면은 아직 많이 낮은 거라고 해요. 캐나다 같은 경우에는 81세, 영국은 80세, 호주는 83세인데 미국은 77세다. 왜 그런가? 이것도 한번 들여다봤더니 obesity라든지 비만율이죠. 굉장히 높고 heart disease, 심장 질환도 여전히 미국은 좀 높은 편이고 drug overdose는 이제 약물 과다 복용이 되겠습니다. 이런 것들로 인해서 네, 또 이런 측면 low overall lifespan 이라고 볼 수 있겠습니다. Let's have a look at the first expression, which is to turn 65, to turn an age.
Right, you become that age.
Yeah.
So this is the difference, and I think a lot of Korean people are because changing.
Now they're getting used to this
Right,
concept.
your age changes. You turn a year older on your birthday, not on January 1st. So that's different. But you can also talk about somebody turning into something else.
Yeah.
Like, I always remember, back when someone becomes a manager sometimes. Like I remember this at the company I worked for. Normal person, just one of your colleagues, one of your coworkers, and then they become a manager, and all of a sudden their personality totally changes. They act different. They turn into a different person.
Turn into something.
And many people say that, right?
Yeah.
People who maybe have too many drinks, they can turn into a completely different person after a couple of drinks.
Yep. If we think about superheroes, Clark Kent turns into Superman.
Right?
And then he turns back into Clark Kent again.
Right, exactly. So you become something
Yeah.
or change into something. You can think of it that way.
무언가가 되다라는 뜻이 있는데요. 나이에 대해서 말할 때는 몇 살이 되다라는 뜻이 있습니다. 그래서 turn 65 this year. 올해 65세가 되는 이라는 뜻입니다. 생일 기준이다 보니까 이런 식으로 대화를 할 수 있겠죠. 저는 다음 달에 65세가 돼요. I turn 65 next month. 이런 식으로요. 자, 그다음에 silver tsunami.
This refers to just this demographic shift caused by an increasing number of older people in a society. Silver meaning because people's hair turns gray, turns silver. But some people could find this term to be a bit offensive or ageist.
Oh, ageist.
Yeah.
무슨 ist 이게 붙으면은 예를 들어서 이제 그 성차별을 한다. 그러면 sexist 이렇게 얘기를 하고요. ageist는 나이 차별을 한다라는 뜻이거든요. 그렇게 보는 입장도 있다고 지금 레이 선생님이 설명을 해주신 건데 어쨌든 silver라는 단어가 붙으면 우리도 뭐 silver town이라는 말이 있는 것처럼 고령이라는 의미를 가지고 있죠. 참고로 우리는 흰머리가 난다라고 하잖아요. 영어로는 회색 머리가 난다라고 합니다. You have gray hairs in English.
Oh, I thought you were talking to me. I was going to, thanks a lot, Sue. We're on the radio. Not everybody knows.
I have a lot of gray hairs too. But in Korean, we say 흰 머리, which is white hairs. So we used a different color.
Sure.
There's the same
Same
concept.
meaning, right.
Yeah. 다시 한번 읽어보겠습니다. A report has found that 4.1 million Americans will turn 65 this year, with the surge, dubbed a silver tsunami, continuing through 2027.